don't get smart about this, they may actually provoke a coup against Maduro and take over a transitional government, hijack a coup. And
A coup from the opposition, a coup from
no,
who?
it would be essentially a coup from the narcos, what they would call, I guess, an autovoltea, a self-coup, where the narcos are trying to provoke the military to top movement. Bill Brownfield could have told you an awful lot about some of this. There's a DEA task force that has, I think, put together enough evidence, according to the sources I have, to indict Gustavo Cabello, Tarek El-Assaimi, the governor. And I have been quoted ungenerously as saying the biggest contribution of the Cuban healthcare system is mistreating jobless cancer. Down to basic offices in Venezuela. They run the internal security apparatus. They spy, incidentally, not on the opposition, but other Chavistas on behalf of Chavez first and then now Maduro. They chose Maduro to be Chavez's successor, the Cubans did. And they micromanaged the succession.
How do you know that?
I have very good sources. I mean, I'm the one that said that Chavez was dying of cancer because there were sources from that had access to the Cubans. So Chavez's death was announced on March 5th of 2013. He actually died in late December 2012. But guess what? They concealed his death. He died in Cuba. They concealed his death even from members of his immediate family. Because why? Because his fourth term, he wouldn't be sworn until his fourth term until January 10th of 2013. So by the time Chavez assumed his fourth term, he had already been dead for close to 2 weeks. Why did they do that?
It's pretty extraordinary.
It is. You know, you haven't heard this before.
No, I mean, to be sworn in after, yeah, I wonder if I could do something after.
And what they were doing was arranging for the fact that Maduro will have been vice president, and in line for succession constitutionally, before Chavez died. This is pretty interesting stuff in terms of what the Cubans are willing to do and able to do because they control that situation. So the Cubans are micromanaging this show right now.
But not very well.
Well,
For them,
Fredo's still in power, and it isn't sustainable. They can't. They managed to hold on to power in Cuba. The National Assembly can convene what's called a revocatory referendum, and the people will go and vote to end the president's term before it's due. They can initiate that now, and I think they've basically said they're going to, but the courts have said we're going to completely annul any action of that kind. What we need to do if we had a foreign policy in this country or anywhere else of the other 34 countries of the OAS is invoke the Inter-American Democratic Charter to put the countries on the spot and say that the constitutional order in Venezuela is ruptured, and we need to at least have a meeting. Believe it or not, that's what diplomats count for action.
Will this have on us an immigration into our country?
That's a very good question. There will be potentially a refugee crisis on the border initially. Venezuela is not Cuba, it's further away. But it's going to become a major problem for Colombia, which is now trying to get to a peace agreement and open up its own territory. It's going to completely scuttle that process, which is a priority for President Obama to get to a peace agreement. That, say goodbye to that. The fact is, we have so many Venezuelans in this room, and you'll find them in every major city in the Americas because they've started moving out. Universities in Latin America are filling up with Venezuelans.
FIU is now I think, an almost majority Venezuelan university, Florida International University, Miami.
So, but will there be the kind of sort of, I think you'll see overstays, people coming into the United States, I think you'll see overstays and people won't be able to go back. Quite frankly, you're gonna have, the president's would have to invoke, what do you call that, temporary protective strategy, temporary protective status. So when Venezuelans would not have to go return, and they get a certain status. So that will become, they had to, you know, the negotiation went like this. The Obama administration wants 5 things. A month later, because the Cubans said no. We want 4 things, Cubans said no. We want 3 things. That was the negotiation, where eventually we decided to reopen, normalize relations, and get nothing in return, because that's what the Cubans wanted. But the thing that they can't deliver, see, the Cuban regime moved from the Soviets to the Europeans and the Spaniards, to Venezuela. And by the way, when they got the Venezuelan oil, which was 90,000 barrels a day at one time, they then threw the Canadians and the Spanish in prison, investors, and took their hotels. They thought they're getting there with the United States, but nothing's going to come from this. No real revenue, other than there will be a bit of a windfall from tourism. Venezuela sends a lot of cocaine across the Atlantic
To West Africa.
To West Africa, and
then up to Europe.
they'll take it over on tankers or big ships, and they break it down into small fast movers and take it on them. And they were even involved in a coup in one of these countries. So the narcos have already, Venezuelan cocaine, or Colombian cocaine from Venezuela has been trafficked into that, and then into the Iberian Peninsula, because the price they command in Europe is much higher. So that's already happening, and it's being used by terrorists, because you know diamonds and cocaine and heroin is portable wealth, and so it is helping terrorism already. You know, tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars stolen from the Venezuelan people by these narco traffickers. By these corrupt public officials. And some of them are narco traffickers, not all. I don't want to tar them all with the same brush. Some of them are just normal folks. And we should recover these assets and make them available for the reconstruction of Venezuela. When I see videos of people in those lines, I see people who are desperate, and they're not out there for their morning constitutional waiting in 3-hour lines to buy food. And there is a shortage of food, and they are living on less food than they did before. And they actually also used to go to work to earn money, and now they're probably living off of resources from someone else. From big family outside the country. So 40%. 40%. Something that gets a little more nasty before folks have to step in. I think there's a possibility that the bad guys that I was talking about were trying to engineer an outlaw gold cave. It's a possibility they may take power for a period of time, and then we're going to really be tested whether we want to have these illegitimate people heading that government. It'll be an easier decision for the OAS to isolate them. But I think give it a 40% chance of some kind of constitutional succession and elections within a year or so. 40%. But social media is another way. There's got to be a lot of people who do social media, Facebook and Twitter here in the United States. Venezuela is 3rd in the world in social media participation of all nations in the world. It's really important you go on and follow those people, retweet what they say. What I do is I'll see something in Spanish, I'll translate it into English and retweet their message so you can get basic message. Those kinds of things are really important. One of the most interesting figures I think in Cuba is Yoni Sanchez, who's a blogger. And